why don't you tell the kind folks at home, what you do here, Kate, and what, your background a little bit.
All right. Well, I'm the health coach here at LIV1 Health. I help a lot of our clients just understanding their treatment plans after they've met with Justin and Jessica. I help go over their challenges, their motivators, what barriers are they having to their success. After I've spoken with them, I get them over to Tim, our trainer, so he can go over their macros and get them on a structured training plan.
You mentioned barriers. Having done the job, not at the level I would say that you do it at. I think you do it on more of a behavior-based level, which I think is wonderful. Yeah. But having coached people to losing 100, 150, 80 pounds, right? Coaching people out of, I was on the verge of ending it, right. Coaching people out of that. It's an interesting and fun job.
It is.
Right? You hear a lot, and it's very rewarding.
Very.
But I guess I'm going to ask you a few questions about you and your aspect in your role in your job and what you feel like, what's the word I want to say? Like, not just your role, but like overall, how you feel about what you see every day, I guess.
Sure.
That makes sense?
Sure. So I think some of the biggest struggles I see that some of our clients have is with nutrition, understanding what they need, how much protein they need, meal prepping being the biggest one, and finding the time, the priority, to make their meals. Just taking a few hours from a Sunday to create your meals for the week saves you so much time. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers for our clients, because we do have a lot of clients that are very busy. They're business owners, so they're looking for quick meals. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to improve your health and you're trying to either lose weight or gain muscle, you really have to dedicate that time. And it's going to be a challenge at first, and you just kind of have to make it a part of your routine. You have to make it a priority. If you want to gain muscle, if you want to lose weight, you have to put in the work. You have to cook the food. You got to stop eating out. We got to stop eating those processed foods. We have to stop eating that fast food. We need to switch to whole foods, lean meats. And honestly, it takes time. It is a challenge, but if you're dedicated and you want to succeed, this is just something you have to do.
What do you think the biggest barrier is for folks in doing that work that matters? Like, obviously, I got 2 kids at home, mm-hmm. right? You mentioned a lot of our clients are business owners or, salespeople, whether like different types, not just sales, but, mm-hmm. Realtors who are out all the time, working. We've got right down to police officers that are working night shifts, mm-hmm. right? I guess what's the biggest barrier that you see, and then maybe a solution, and it goes back to what you just said is the solution, is just making sure that time's set aside to do those things. Right. But what are like those people's biggest barriers for, number one, I guess, barrier that keeps people from doing that?
Family, kids. You're putting kids first, which is obvious. But yes, family and time constraints. But at the end of the day, you have to make the time. Now, you can make it a family thing, on a Sunday, and, include your kids, have them help you, while you're cooking, have them, if they're old enough, put the meals in the dishes and have it set and ready for the week. You can definitely make it a family affair. Now, if you are somebody that's on the go, you're in the car, you're a realtor, or you're just traveling all the time, that almost makes it even more crucial to have your meals pre-planned, because it is so easy when you're on the go and on the run to just pick up something convenient. So the biggest solution is dedicating those few hours a week and just doing it.
I could go on probably a 2-hour rant about travel sports.
Yeah.
I have one kid and one travel sport, right? I see parents that have three and like three different ones, right? I feel like I've heard that one quite a bit in my days when I was doing your job to some degree. I can't get out, I can't do that. And my biggest solution to them was just what you said. Block off the time. Sunday, best day to do it. You get home. For some people, maybe I guess those sports there might be on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you can just get that time in and get that time, behind the counter, get your meal prepped, look at your week, what's going on in your week, when can you work out in your week, right? So those were always kind of the solutions that when it came to people who, not just family, but working. Man, I could think of a million other things right now, but they're not at the top of my head. So everything else that just kind of takes up someone's time in their waking hours.
Right.
I think it's a big prioritization thing too.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize your health even over some of those other situations, right? Because how are you going to make it to each and every one of those things, and how are you going to be active with your kids, or how are you going to be active and able to go to the one sales meeting to the next, or one business thing to the next, or one call to the next, right? If you don't have some level of good health, right?
It comes down to your priorities. What are your priorities in life? I mean, do you want to live a long, healthy life? Do you want to set a good example for your children? And I think that's one of the biggest ones is, we could eat healthy or we could eat horrible. What are we going to show our children? Because what they see is what they are going to do. And if you want them succeeding in sports and doing great and being active and doing well in school, we want them to eat well, don't we? I mean, that at the end of the day, I feel like it's a complete family affair. If you're eating well and doing well, your children are going to eat well and they're going to do well as well. I mean, at the end of the day, it's very hard for one spouse to be trying to put their health, make their health as a priority, but where their, husband or wife is not. You both have to kind of be on the same page. You both need to be supporting each other in each other's health goals. Social support is huge, but spousal support is even much, much bigger. And that's some of the challenges we run into here at LIV1. We have clients that come in here together, but sometimes we see one is doing a lot better than the other, and it's just trying to figure out where's the constraint there. Are they each devoting time to each other to making sure they each succeed? If that makes any sense.
No.
But yeah. But no, you got to go in together on it if you both want to succeed. Now, if you have one or the other doesn't, really care about their health, or I really think then they both need to sit down and kind of have a talk about it.
I think health is just a situation, but going back to, I would say that it's the most important situation. It's how you function. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
You are, if you don't care about your health now, you're going to care about your health when, you're laying on your back in a hospital bed, or you're, that's when you're going to start caring.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the ride for a lot of people, and they don't care until they're at that moment. Right.
They're not realizing, and then all of a sudden they have all this. Not only is their health completely declining, but there's a bunch of financial stress due to the health, hospital bills. Like, there's things that you can do to prevent any of that from happening. We want here, at LIV1 to make sure it doesn't get to that point.
What do your successful clients all have in common, right?
Yeah.
Because we led people kind of down the pathway of here's what basically one excuse or one constraint or whatever you want to call it to the next, to the next, to the next, into poor health till you're laying on the bed. Well, what are the people in the opposite direction doing?
Exactly.
So
They're following their treatment plan. They're doing exactly what we tell them to do. They're tracking their food intake. They're making sure their protein intake is where it needs to be. They're sticking to their structured training plan with Tim. They're dedicating themselves. They're putting themselves first. For a lot of them, it's a first time in their entire lives that they're actually putting themselves first. And it's remarkable at the changes that we are seeing. Just making yourself a priority. I'm seeing like clients that have families. It's creating stronger families, more interconnected families. They're all working together. So there's less excuses, more of how are we going to make this happen instead of the I can'ts. Like, what are we going to do to fix this? And I think that's the discipline of change. So motivation is only going to go so far before discipline kicks in. And you have to remain consistent with your discipline. And at the end of the day, it just becomes routine. It just becomes a part of your life. It's your lifestyle. And that's what we are hoping and wanting here out of our clients, is that switch in lifestyle. Not a fad, not a few weeks, not a let's drop some pounds and then go back to what we were doing. That's not how it works.
Well, let's talk about, I guess, discipline a little bit, because that's a big thing, right? And for you and your job here, you're like everybody's accountability partner. Is that what you would describe it, or what would you call it? I mean,
that sounds about right.
That's kind of how I put it. You've heard me talk. I'm a little tougher love, and I was tougher love when I was coaching people, right? Like it was straight to the point, right? Cutthroat, you say.
There's nothing.
And I was watching the Biggest Loser. Did you see that on Netflix?
I did.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
So you see the part where Bob's yelling at the lady, right? And I'm sitting there like, but that's what you have to do in that moment to get that person to will their way forward. But as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, how do you balance like the accountability? Like you want that, he wanted her to run for 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And she just wouldn't. It was almost like she's being defiant.
Yeah.
Right. How do you balance accountability with compassion? Because, he almost lost his gourd basically
Pretty
on
much.
it, right?
Yeah.
You know? And so how do you balance that in your practice here,
Sometimes I'll just, I'll straight up ask our clients, is this what you want? What do you want? Do you want to get healthy? Do you want to lose the weight? Do you want to feel better? And you really need to answer those questions for yourself, because if you don't want any of this right now, it's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to, what do you want? And now I show compassion, but some clients I've got to be a little more stern with than others, because I know they are capable and I know they can do it, because they've showed signs that they can, and that they've explained they want this. And with others, in the beginning, a little bit more compassion, just trying to get them more to focus on themselves and come to the realization that self-care is really important. Taking care of yourself is very important. And, there has to be a balance there. And you kind of, once you start to get to know the clients a little better, then you kind of know where to balance, where to end up.